I'm Aaron.
And I'm Mitch.
And you're listening to the Moderately Interesting Podcast.
Play the theme song.
Ooh, so good. Never gets old.
Oh, yeah. I'm muted for some reason. Hello?
Hello?
Check. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. There we go.
I can hear you. Hearing me.
Right there. Yep. That's why. I have my Xbox. And it's got the volume, and the music for the intro was like super loud, so I turned it down on there, and I was like, oh, I can't hear my voice anymore. So I like being able to hear my voice as I talk, because I like hearing myself talk.
There you go.
How's it going?
Good. Very good.
Welcome to the Moderately Interesting Podcast.
Thank you, and you as well.
Thank you. Where we talk about moderately interesting topics. Such as?
We're talking about Stranger Things, Volume 4 today.
Stranger Things, Volume 4.
A little late, but you know what? That's okay.
Better late than never.
That's just how we roll, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's just how
we wait like weeks or months before we drop a
we
podcast on a topic.
We let it sit, we let it simmer, we let it, digest properly. We want to make sure it sits well, we have time to think about it, and then we talk about it.
And I'm one of those that tends to be late on watching things too. Like I still haven't seen Top Gun.
Yeah.
And I know that by the reaction I get when I tell that to people, they're like, "What?" I know it's like a sin at this point. And so I was actually just looking up showtimes here in Tennessee, and I found a couple for next week. So probably try and go see that ASAP as possible. So
I went to go see Top Gun like 2 weeks ago, like the weekend of the 4th of July. Like I just moved, and like I was like, I want to go see Top Gun, and my roommate was like, yeah, I want to go too. I haven't seen it yet. And like we went to go see it. We like went there, and it was sold out.
Right.
Like
I had the same experience here. I went to go see it. I think it was the next weekend, that following weekend, like the 11th or 12th or whatever, or 10th, and it was sold out in every theater in this area. And there's one theater close by where I live that's got huge showrooms that, hundreds of seats, and all sold out.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy because it's been out for like a while at that point. Like,
yeah,
it's not like it just opened. Yeah, that's crazy.
So we'll be late on that, just as late as we'll be on everything else.
We'll wait for it to come out on like Blu-ray or whatever, and then we'll do a review.
Yeah, we'll wait for Disney Plus to buy out whatever company made Top Gun.
Paramount.
We'll wait for Disney Plus to buy Paramount so that they can stream it on Disney Plus, and then we'll watch it then.
Yeah.
Which might be tomorrow for all we know.
So. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
So Stranger Things,
Volume
Quattro. Yeah. What's so we have a question in the title. Was it worth the wait?
Was it worth the wait? Yeah,
How long did we wait? It was like close to
3 years.
3 years. Yes, 3 years.
It came out. Volume 3 came out. I remember this is like really dumb, but I remember Volume 3 came out on the 4th of July
in 2019, right?
Was it 2019 or 2018?
I think it was 2019.
It was probably 2019.
Yeah. I remember it was 2019 because my family was visiting me from out of state And that would have been 2019 because I was still living in Utah at 2018.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they wouldn't have needed to visit me in 2018. So it was
you're
2019.
correct.
And there was nothing in 2020, nothing in 2021.
Yeah.
We finally got it in 2022.
So it came out July 4th, 2019. So yeah, like you said, from 2020,
And
2021, 2022.
Most, if not all, of the kids, if you want to call them kids, are well past puberty and don't really pass as high school students anymore.
A lot of them don't. Yeah, it's true.
Side note, really quick. One pet peeve of mine is when any show, TV, series, movie, whatever, casts adults like clearly adults with like 5 o'clock shadow as high school students.
High school teenagers. That's why I always thought like as a kid that like high school students were like way older because they were portrayed like by like 25, 30-year-olds.
Yeah, and they're still doing that. I mean,
like,
I know there's probably some like you probably get better acting quality, but at the same time, it's like I can tell that dude is at least 30.
You know what movie was like really bad at that? Was and I don't know why you would remember this movie because it wasn't that good, but Fired Up.
I don't think I ever saw that.
Yeah, that one came out in 2009.
Was that a cheerleader movie or like a dance movie?
Okay. So it's like about like two guys who like join cheerleaders so they can like go to cheerleading camp so they can like hook up with the cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
But and like this is 2009, so this is kind of a different time. But like everybody thinks they're gay, so like they don't really hook up with people.
Yeah.
Like they're gay.
I don't remember. I remember those were like popular back then. The dance movies like Step Up or something.
Step Up and a Brick. I don't even think that's a movie, but
I think like I maybe saw one of those.
Stomp the Yard.
Yeah,
I probably saw one.
Yeah, well, I probably saw one of those, and then I was like, yeah, this ain't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So anyways, back that was one thing that I noticed in this show was like some of the people they cast. I'm like, you are not a senior in high school, let alone you're my age. You are clearly my age.
Super senior.
Yeah.
Super senior.
And I can point out a few of them.
Okay.
Eddie, the basketball player, I can't remember his name right now.
The basketball player was a big one for me.
Yeah, he looked older than me.
Eddie,
Eddie,
I definitely thought was like a super senior, or like
and they actually played that off. They played that off well because they were like, he's like, this is my year. This is my year. It's like,
he's my year.
Yeah, he's probably held back like 3 or 4 years. He's probably 25. He's probably 25 in real life too. How
does that work? Like I'm not a teacher or anything, but how does that work when you're like held back?
And you're an adult and you're hanging out with minors? Like that's kind of weird.
You're like over 18, like you're turning 19. Like
there's got to be a point where some kind of legal issue.
Well, they're just like, no, you're done. Like
like you can't be making out with 14-year-olds anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
20 now.
Because like, did you know people who were held back? Like not just like, like, oh, they got held back senior year, but just like in elementary school or anything like that. Did you know people who got held back?
I remember like rumors of kids that got held back. I don't know if there was never like a I can't think of like a clear example of someone. I can't think of anybody really that.
I knew a kid who got held back. And that was like a big thing. It was like, well, like I just remember being a kid and like it's like the last day of school, you get your report card, and like there was like this like fear for a long time as a kid growing up of like, oh, like did I get held back? Did I not get held back? And I'd like tear open the report card and it would say like promoted to like 3rd grade or 4th grade or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, like I remember like having that moment with like 3 friends where we all opened up our report cards and like saw like promoted to 5th grade. Yeah, like,
we did it.
Yeah. And then like I didn't know that like apparently like if you're gonna get held back, like I found this out later, like if you're gonna get held back, it's like a big meeting with your parents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's got to be
not how
because
you discover that you're getting held back. Is the last day of school with a report card. Like, no,
that'd be
you're.
the worst. You see it. You just see it written in fine print at the bottom, like with a star next to it.
Yeah.
You did not graduate. You did not. You did not get promoted to the 5th grade. You are
failed.
going to be doing the 4th
You're
grade
gonna do
again
fourth grade all over again. Fourth grade's
because
tough,
you
though.
are a stupid person.
Yeah, fourth grade is tough.
So one thing
You're
with
doing
school,
multiplication and division, so it's kind of hard.
I know I'm going off topic more,
No, you're good.
but like I am not a stellar student, but
Uh-huh.
I passed. I graduated high school with like a 3.5 GPA,
Okay.
and I did not try at all.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you. I did not learn how to study for a test until I was in college.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to. I didn't turn in assignments.
Yeah.
I just I would do homework in the hallway on my way to class, the class that it was due in.
Thanks.
And I would somehow pass classes.
Yeah.
The only classes that I was good at math. I liked math. That was one. And I'm not like a math whiz, but I enjoyed it and it made sense in my brain. Like science, history. I liked history to a degree. Once it came to the test, I was like, yeah, this sucks. But I liked learning about history and like
history was my best subject. I was super good at history.
Yeah, but I did not try, and I'm like, how do people get held back? How did Eddie in Stranger Things get held back as probably as far as he did?
So I knew that kid. His name was Gino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his last name, so it's okay.
Gino, baby.
Oh, Gino, baby. Yeah, he was. Even though he was like 7 years old, he was like very stereotypically Italian.
Yeah.
Italian American. And yeah, I remember. I think he got held back in 3rd grade because I remember like not seeing him in 4th grade and then seeing him.
Yeah.
Like at recess, and it's like, oh, you're still in like Mrs. Whatever's class. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then like probably a year after that, he moved or went to a different school or whatever, and I never saw him again. But
if any of you listening were held back, and we don't judge you.
No, we're not judging you.
But you're probably stupid. Just kidding. You're not stupid.
And
but
then
you might be stupid.
When I was a freshman in high school, I knew there was this guy. They're like, oh, this guy. I can't even remember his name now. It was like Mike or Todd or something like that. And like he's a super senior, and I was like, what's a super senior? And it's like he's doing his senior year again, and I was like, oh.
I remember the only kids I can think of were like the kids that were that the rumors were that they were held back so that they could excel at sports, and they clearly were held back because they were much more mature than everybody else.
I've never heard of anything like that. Yeah.
You know, like the people with the birthdays in August that are like
either
a year younger than everyone else or a year older than everybody else.
Yeah,
that's where it took place. And there was like one kid whose birthday was in like June or like May, and he was a year. You know, if he would have been I graduated in 2010, he should have graduated in 2011.
Right.
So he was full. My birthday's in April. He would have been. You know, I just turned 30. He'd be 31 now.
They just squeaked him in.
And he, you know, there was one kid that I can think of that was, you know, on the football team, on the basketball team, everything that he was just physically bigger and better than everybody else.
Right. Well, that's kind of like one of my friends.
But that was the rumor. It wasn't true. I don't know his truth, but
he was like the same. He's kind of like the same thing. He was born October. He was born in October, so like they squeaked him in, and so he should have probably been like in the grade above me, but they put him in the grade, my grade.
Yeah.
Because like in my friend group, he was born October, and then my other friend was born July. Like he just had his birthday, so like there's almost like like a 9-month difference between their age, but we were all in the same grade, like super weird. I don't know like how that works.
So Eddie was held back. Basketball player probably wasn't held back. but he
I mean,
was.
I have to assume that the basketball player was held back in like third grade or something like that.
He's probably one of those that was held back for sports purposes. Like the dad was like, "Yeah, let's start him a year later so he can be dominant in
Yeah,
all
he's dumb,
all the
right?
sports that."
Look, I don't want him playing with Steve Harrington. Okay, so
Yeah,
this is Steve Harrington's team.
that Steve Harrington kid that's killing it in 5-year-old little league, whatever.
Yeah, I think we're
gonna let him go a year ahead so that we can dominate the senior year, and Steve Harrington
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was more
unless
prevalent.
Steve Harrington gets bad grades and gets held back.
Steve
Then,
Harrington gets
but he didn't.
sidetracked by that Nancy Wheeler girl across the street. I mean, she's
Yeah.
only like 5 right now, but
Right.
Whooper.
So the question: was it worth the wait? What do you think?
Wait, I think it's kind of it's you kind of got to put some context to this, right?
Yeah.
In that we got it in 2019, volume 3. I mean, in 2019, and then 2020 happens. Everything shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, normalcy doesn't really happen again until 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they actually pumped that out kind of fast, but they just,
Yeah.
because of
I think they had started filming shortly after the season 3 had started, and I think they didn't. I think they stopped. Either I don't know if they had finished filming. I think they hadn't finished filming, so I think they had to continue filming last year.
No, oh yeah, I mean it's very obvious that if they did film right after Volume 3, then almost none of that footage made it in. I think.
Yeah, or they didn't really get much done.
Or they didn't get much done, or it was with like newer characters or like other characters like Winona Ryder and like
right.
Hopper and stuff like that. Because the kids, I think this is the biggest age or the difference the kids look in age is between Volume 3 and Volume 4.
Absolutely.
So, because I asked the question was it worth the wait? Because from the outside looking in, I thought this took way too long. Like this one felt forever to get to this volume.
Yeah. Is Stranger Things one of those shows that you look forward to, or is it kind of like one of those in the background that shows up every now and then? You're like, oh,
no,
Stranger Things is back.
So Stranger Things 1, obviously nobody knew what Stranger Things 1 was.
Right.
But I remember like seeing an article on Facebook of like, oh, if you haven't been watching Netflix's Stranger Things, like you should watch it right now. Yeah, start now. And I was like, okay. And like it was like in this like weird time period of I was in school at the time.
Yeah.
And for like those of you who didn't go to BYU Idaho and Rexburg, the way that it works is like you have like these like track systems. So they're not like semesters, like regular semester. Well, they are semesters, but so like
you usually have a significant time off, right?
Yes, yeah. You go what's called off track, but this wasn't even that at that point yet. But or no way, anyways, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But the semester had just ended, and this one there was like a 2-week break in between the end of the semester and the start of the new semester. And instead of going home, I like was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay here. So I like paid extra and I kept my apartment and lived there and stuff like that. And during that period of time, I had like no roommates. There was like 2.5 weeks where I was like I had nobody. I just lived in this huge apartment by myself. It was kind of awesome. And I just watched Stranger Things.
Right. I think everyone kind of had a similar experience, and like you're talking about originality. Like it's one of those shows that just kind of came out of nowhere. It's not based off of anything. Right. Anytime you get like a video game, book, reboot, whatever, you hear about it because it's based off of something. So it's like, oh, it's Harry Potter is coming out. Oh, great.
Okay, yeah.
But Stranger Things was like random, and so you had to kind of hear about it through some random thing, and it wasn't like a gathering like, hey, let's all get together and watch the new this. It was more like, I'm gonna try this out and see what
So
happens. And
So yeah, let me back it up a little bit. I got it wrong. It wasn't that I was off track. It was during the summer. Rexburg does a little summer semester. With that summer semester, you get like a couple of days off, and then the summer term starts. And so that's what I was doing. I was in the summer term. So
Right.
I had this place to myself for like a weekend, and my roommate and friend Zach was gone. And so during that weekend, I just binge watched Stranger Things because I saw it, like I said. And then Zach comes back, and I was like, dude, the show called Stranger Things just came out.
his bomb.
It's super good. Like, you gotta watch it. And he was like, oh, okay, I guess. So then I watched Stranger Things again with him. So I was like, yeah, like I'll put it on right now. It's super good. Watch Stranger Things again.
That's really funny
And
because I had a
then,
similar experience.
and then,
Keep going.
yeah, I was like, and then my friend Peter comes back from the weekend, from the coming back for summer, and I'm like, Peter, have you heard of this show called Stranger Things? And he's like, no, what's that? And I was like, this is this new show on Netflix. And then I watched it. I watched it like 3 times within like a week and a half with different people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I was working at an airport when I first watched it. I watched like 2 episodes in the morning. I had a morning shift, and then another person came in to join me, and we worked together for a few hours, and then I left and blah blah blah. And I had watched a couple of episodes. It was a very low key airport job. Like we just sat there a lot of the time, and he came and similar experience. I'm like, dude, this show is amazing. I don't even know how to explain it. You just got to watch it. And so we ended up watching, I think, half of the show. I ended up staying past my shift to keep watching it with him on just random computer screen at the front desk. But yeah, very, very cool show. Very original. Love. It's got a lot of influences from other movies and TV shows and cultural things, but it's not based off of anything in particular.
It's new. It's different. It's its own thing.
Yeah, which I feel like is kind of like a hidden or like a almost like a non-existent thing nowadays. There's not a lot of originality. Everything is either a reboot, sequel based off of something,
right?
And so it's nice to get something that's like you've
that's
never seen those before. This is new.
Right. Well, I'm super excited because tomorrow, speaking of Netflix, the Russo brothers have a show or a movie coming on Netflix tomorrow called The Dead Man.
Oh yeah,
and I want to.
Is that with Chris Evans and Gosling?
It's Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. Yeah, so I'm gonna check that out tomorrow or tonight, maybe even.
So with Stranger Things season 4.
Season 4, yeah.
I to answer the question, was it worth the wait? For me, I would say yes, and for a few reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, we had all the COVID stuff, so whatever that happened and affected everything. But I also think this was probably. Let me ask a question as I'm explaining my answer here. What would you rank the seasons?
Okay, that's a good question. That's what I was going to get to actually.
Yeah.
Because
that's part of my answer.
The week I'm going to go from worst to best.
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 1.
That's exactly the same as mine. Yeah. And that goes along with my answer. I think that they did what I would have asked them to do if I had any kind of a connection with the Duffer. Is it Duffer? Duffer brothers?
Yeah, the Duffer brothers, yeah.
If I had any kind of connection with them, I'd be like, hey, while you got this time off, maybe take a little bit of time, figure out the story, make sure it's good. Don't just give us some mass-produced garbage like everything else that's happening in the world. Give us something that's good. You got the time. No, you got the excuses, whatever, COVID. If you need to blame COVID for everything, go ahead.
Yeah.
Just get a good story. I don't care. And so I rank it the same. I think the first season is the best because it is kind of like the origin story. It's got so much mystery and build up. And I feel like season 4 has the answers to a lot of the questions that we had. Season 2 and 3 were almost like building up to season 4. 3 was definitely stronger than 2.
Yeah.
Loved Billy as a character. He was really
Billy
cool.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I don't even remember season 2 that well. I just remember I remember Samwise Gamgee was in it, and there was a bunch of Demogorgon dogs, and I'm like,
the demi dogs
cool.
thing.
So I don't quite remember it as much. And then
season 2 is easily the weakest.
Yeah, easy to forget. But I think that was why I would say it was worth the wait, is because I think they did take the extra time and put it into building a good story. Making it, they went kind of Game of Thrones style, where you have a whole bunch of different plot lines and people.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in Game of Thrones, you had people you wanted to meet up, and you wanted, it's just like reading a book. You're like, oh man, we got, so and so and this guy together for the first time ever. Let's see how they interact, and so it was really cool to get that I guess. And so, and then you have like 3 different, I think it was 3, might have been 4, but 3 different locations. You got the stuff going on in Russia, the stuff going on in California, the stuff going on in Hawkins.
Yeah.
And then you kind of had that 4th one where 11 gets kidnapped and taken to the lab in the whatever desert. And it's like, you kind of get that as a side story. But I love that. And I love that the story they built on top of everything that they've done so far, and they started giving you some answers. And I feel like I don't say this lightly, because I know how important Lord of the Rings is to pop culture and everything, really. This feels the final season. I'm glad they're doing a final season, by the way. I'm glad they're ending it at 5 and they're not just like, oh, this makes money, let's keep going. Season 5 feels like a Lord of the Rings Return of the King type of, and I don't say that lightly. I say that with respect to Return of the King. I do not say it is Return of the King or better. I say it's similar to that, where it's like, here comes the final battle of whatever you want to call it, to save the world and Hawkins and all that kind of stuff. So they're setting up for the final punch, which I think is really good, and I think they delivered it well.
Okay.
Again, I don't say that lightly. I respect Lord of the Rings. I'm just using it as a slight example, because it is it's the best.
Okay. I'm going to take a stab at it right now. Was it worth the wait? And my answer is yes, with like the asterisks of like, like COVID slowed it down and stuff like that, blah blah blah. My big thing is I don't think there's a couple of things. One, I don't think Stranger Things needs to be 5 seasons. I think they could have done that in 4 seasons.
Yes, yeah.
I think they could have done it in 4 seasons, first of all.
But let's be grateful that they're ending it at 5 and not doing like what a lot of TV shows do and being like, oh, this is doing well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
That's where I start to fall off. I'm like, you don't need to do 8 seasons. You don't need to do 12 seasons. Just stop.
Right.
Have an ending. This is a type of show that needs an ending.
Right. And the other thing that kind of throws it off the wait is like, was it worth the wait? Is like, yes, but I also do not want season 5 to do what season 4 did and go, oh, this is season 5, volume 1. This is season 5, volume 2. That was so annoying. That was so annoying for me. The fact that
do you know why they did that?
It's just they didn't have the last 2 episodes ready, so they just put
okay.
Out. And so like I was like talking with somebody and they're like, well, yeah, the last 2 episodes were like 2 hours long, and I was like, cool, nobody asked for that. Like, you could have given me hour-long episodes. That's fine. I've been watching hour-long episodes literally since until you gave me 2-hour ones. And the 2-hour
I was wondering about that, because I'm like, they're saying that as their, I don't know if it's an excuse, but they're saying that as the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
You're going to get 2.5 hours of one episode, and you're going to have another hour of another episode. It's like, But
That
why?
doesn't. Yeah,
Why
why
don't you
can't
just
I?
release it now? Why is
Yeah,
it? Where is it?
why don't you just release them? Like, I would rather just take my regular size episodes and have them all at once than
Yeah.
for you to break them up to give me super sized episodes. So I
Right.
don't like that they did that. I don't like that they did volume two. That they split it up into volume two. Not that the quality of volume two was bad or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it just seems like it was a really like arbitrary, like Netflix is like, no, we want it out on this day, but it's not ready.
Mhm.
We'll just make it work.
Yeah.
I would have rather had it pushed back 3 weeks and had the whole thing done out at one
Mhm.
point than than this. Or I would have rather had them do the Disney Plus where, hey, we're gonna put an episode a week.
Right. I was just
Like
gonna say that
I would
that would
rather
have
have
worked too.
that. Yeah, I would have
Because
rather
we got
because
7. Did we get 7 episodes or
yeah.
6?
Yeah, I can't
7,
remember.
because there was 9 total, and there was 2 final episodes.
Yeah,
So they had 7 weeks that they could have done one release a week,
yeah.
and yeah,
It
but they
seems
didn't.
to me like they wanted it out that day because they
Yeah.
wanted to go toe to toe with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me was they wanted to go toe to toe with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which
Yeah.
in my mind is like that's stupid because Obi-Wan Kenobi is only releasing like on the release day. You have
Yeah.
7 episodes of Stranger Things and you have 2 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like,
But honestly, in this day and age, I don't really feel like it matters as much
it doesn't
because
matter, right?
most people have the streaming services of both, and they'll
Right.
probably watch both on this. I think I watched both of those on the same day or
Right.
within 2 days of each other,
Right.
and in in the past when movies were ruling the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like TV series are ruling the world, but
Right.
when movies ruled the world and you had to go to a theater, no one wanted to pay for 2 movies.
Right.
People were like, which movie, if you have 2 really good movies
But
out,
like
which one do you
also
want to pay for on opening weekend?
like also though like 2 movies coming out on the same weekend, like 2 gigantic movies, I should say, 2 big movies coming out on the same weekend.
Doesn't happen very often.
Really didn't happen, right?
No,
Like,
no, and it still doesn't. It
Right.
still doesn't.
Like,
Though there's a lot of movies that have been pushed back or moved forward because
Right.
of that.
like I can't really think of a time where it was like, oh man, I really want to see this movie, but this movie's also coming out like at the same like it's usually when like 2 movies like 2 big movies do come out, they're pretty different that the audience overlap is very minimal.
Yeah.
Like if Titanic came out and like Armageddon came out, like it didn't, but like let's just pretend like that's what happened. Titanic and Armageddon came out on the same weekend. Like those are 2 very different, like people going to see those movies kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But like I remember, I mean, like a modern example, and this is already a few years old even, but Batman v Superman announced their release date. They're like, yeah, this is Batman v Superman, and it's coming out on this date. And at the time, Marvel had already said there is an untitled Marvel project coming out on this date, and then Batman v Superman said we're coming out on the same date as this Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, that's gonna be super interesting. And then like 3 weeks later, after DC did that, Marvel was like, oh, by the way, that Marvel movie is Captain America 3. And you're like, oh, like it wasn't even Civil War at that point. And then once DC found out it was Captain America 3, I mean, I'm assuming they had the numbers ran. They're like, yeah, we're gonna get crushed. But the people who are gonna go see Captain America 3 are the same people who are gonna see Batman v Superman for the most part.
And they're gonna prioritize Captain America.
They're gonna prioritize Captain America
over
3.
that.
Like, yeah, so very quickly.
You'll get a couple of people that are fanboys of DC and
Right.
extremists that way. They're we gotta go see that first.
Right.
But yeah, I get what you're saying.
But yeah, so like honestly, this whole Volume 1, Volume 2 thing pissed me off. But I didn't watch Volume 1 until Volume 2 came out.
Right.
Like I just waited and watched it all. Like
I personally didn't mind it, but I didn't think about it the same way. I was more just like, I don't really care how they're doing it as long as I get it soon.
Well,
and then I waited a little bit, so I only had to wait like a week and a half to watch the part volume 2 or whatever.
Mhm.
But I honestly, I know we talked about Kenobi last time, and now we're talking about
Mhm.
Stranger Things, and those were kind of if you want to say it, the competing two
Right.
series that were new at the time. I was more excited about Stranger Things than I was about Kenobi
Okay.
because of the originality, because of where we kind of left off,
Right.
and whereas Kenobi was more just like, oh, it's going to be fun to see some familiar faces on the screen again. And Stranger Things was more like, I want to know things that I don't know yet,
Okay.
and so I was more excited about Stranger Things than I was, and so I didn't really care. I'm like, just keep. I don't even care if you have to wait another month. If you got it, I didn't know at the time. I didn't look it up or
Right.
anything, but I didn't know what the reason was that they did the volume 2. But I'm just happy we
Yeah.
got it.
So I mean, like when I got to that point, when I finished episode 7,
Yeah,
the way episode 7 ended, I was like, man, if I had to wait like a month or whatever that wait was between volume 1 and volume 2,
that was actually a pretty good cliffhanger.
I would have been pissed. Like
Yeah,
I would have been pissed. So I'm glad I waited.
they ended season 4, or sorry, they ended volume 1 of season 4 with they had just entered the Upside Down, right?
I think that's what happened.
Steve, Nancy, Robin, and Eddie had just dropped down from the trailer into the Upside, and Dustin. Can't
Yeah.
forget Dustin.
So
They had just like started their plan, their ultimate plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So for you, it was worth the wait. It was kind of like an in between answer. You're like,
it's an in between answer. It is an in between answer because
it was, but it wasn't.
If I had to wait for volume 2, it would not have been worth the wait.
Yeah.
Like
For me, it was worth the wait, and I do think a lot of it has to do with the quality of the story, and I feel like I don't know, but I feel like they put a little extra time to make sure the story was good over those last 3 years. And and again, that is something that I am starting to notice in pop culture is Star Wars is starting to kind of get a little bit repetitive and like, ugh. Let's just go back to the 3-episode trilogies, honestly. I know it's off topic and we don't need to go on that. We can talk about that in a whole another day. That'll be another episode. Marvel is starting to get that way where it's like, ugh. Which I want to do a whole episode on the state of Marvel right now because we just kind of hit a good mark with Thor, Love and Thunder, and I think we can talk about is it Phase 4 that we're in now? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But a lot of these shows are, big money companies. We're getting just a lot of mass produced stuff. It's like we're getting a bunch of Wonder White bread, and I want some Dave's whatever that bread is that's got all sorts of seeds and stuff in it. That takes a little more time to make. Or homemade bread. I don't know, but that's one thing I appreciate about Stranger Things is that it did take the time to give us something good and deliver.
I want from you 3 positive things about Stranger Things Volume 4, and your top 3 negative, like need to improve, things from Stranger Things Season 4.
Top 3 positives. Okay. There might be some general things here, and I apologize for the squeaky dog in the background. I would say I'm going to start with the negatives.
Okay.
CGI kind of sucked.
Okay.
Not in all cases, but in some cases. I didn't mind it. There was times where I'm like, they have to kind of do this, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't look that great. Like 11 as a kid was kind of like that's pretty bad.
A little weird, yeah.
Yeah, but it was necessary. I get it for the storyline.
It wasn't awful, but it was a little weird.
It was just weird. Yeah, it just wasn't. It didn't really. I think Will is kind of like a dry character, And we talked about this in a text message, and I am glad that Will is back in Hawkins and having his little, his feelings, his senses of the dark side once again, because he was just kind of like this boring character. It's like, what the hell is this? What is this painting about? Because they keep talking about it all the time, and it's like it's Mike fighting a dragon with his friends, and it's like, okay, and then and he's obviously got feelings for Mike, which is fine. I don't care, but at the same time, he was just kind of a boring character, and I do like Will, and I think all the other characters had a much more important role. Actually, Mike kind of didn't either, but and then I can't really think of a third one. I would say maybe the I don't know. I can't think of a third one right now.
Okay.
Maybe there wasn't enough people that died. I don't know. I kind of wish they would have done Red Wedding on me.
Top 3 comment. My top 3.
Your bottom 3s. Yeah.
Let me do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So number 3 is definitely Jonathan.
Okay.
I do not like the character direction they went with Jonathan at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Jonathan was so interesting in the first 3 seasons, especially the first. He was just like he's like the hero,
Yeah, he was like the loser who became the hero, and then in this one he became just a stereotypical like stoner, and like didn't do anything, had nothing to contribute.
Yeah,
and it was just like whenever he luckily he didn't even have like that many scenes where he was like the main focus point. But like whenever he was, it was a drag, and like it sucks that that this character just like did nothing. And there's that's basically going to be a lot of my theories are just like these characters that I did not enjoy the season.
And I can agree with Jonathan. I think he was kind of up there with Will. I think Will kind of overpowered as far as the doing nothingness. For me,
I disagree. I think Will was more of an internal character than. So it wasn't as flashy as a lot of the other characters.
I think Jonathan didn't get as much. I don't think he got as much attention from the camera too. Whereas you saw Will a lot, but he didn't really do much. But Jonathan didn't do anything,
right?
And other than smoke weed and drive a van across the country, and fill a bathtub of water and hug his brother at one point.
And to go along with that, the pizza delivery character, you could have
Argyle.
Argyle. You could have taken that whole character out and nothing would have changed.
Right.
I did not I'm sure there are people out there who found him funny and entertaining. I did not. I was just very annoyed whenever he came on the scene. And it felt like the only reason why they made this character was so that way he could go get them into a pizza place at the season finale. So
to fill up the salt bath.
To fill up the salt bath. I feel like that is the reason why the character existed. And I was like, you could have just made Jonathan work there. Like you got the same results. Like like I did not enjoy that character. Like one
thing Stranger Things has done in the past and is continuing to do is they do introduce characters.
Yes.
And I think they're trying to hold on to the main characters as much as possible. They don't want the main characters to die.
Right.
They're not. Then that's where they don't go Game of Thrones style on us.
Right.
So they do introduce these new characters, and they make you wonder which one of them are going to die.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was Eddie. But I get what you're saying with Argyle. I liked Argyle with the comic relief. He was not really like an important character for me. It was just kind of like he was kind of funny at times.
It just feels like he was literally just comic relief. Like,
he was for sure.
And it was just like I wish like Hollywood can like just move past like, oh, we need a comic relief character. It's like, no, you don't.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, like we don't need that. Like, some people actually watch this.
You can strictly be a drama. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need that. Yeah, that lighten the mood type of person.
So
is that 2 of them? You got Argyle.
Those 2 are kind of combined.
Jonathan.
Because I blame Argyle for Jonathan's.
Right. They're kind of like the downfall of each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2 is definitely it's almost a tie. I'm gonna flip it. Actually, I'm gonna flip it. Number 2 is what we just said. A main character should have died.
Yes.
And I'm gonna tell you who that main character is. 11 should have died.
Okay, I was gonna say, don't say Steve.
No, not Steve. 11 should have died.
Yeah.
11 should have died because it has gotten to the point now in Stranger Things where we're 4 seasons in, and I am just waiting for 11 to use her powers to fight and save the day.
Mhm.
And the fact that it is such a staple now that they had to make a contrived way of like, oh no, she lost her powers, so now I have to spend a whole season to get her whole powers back, so that way she can save the day. It's like we're still getting that same place.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it just would have been so much more like if 11 had died at the end of Stranger Things 4, and you're like, okay, now we're getting Stranger Things 5. I'm like, I have no idea how they're gonna beat Vecna. Like, I have no idea like what they're gonna do. Like,
but we know that she has her powers back.
She has her powers back, so
yeah, she's alive and well
she's
and
alive
fine,
and yeah,
reunited with all of her people, and yeah.
And I think I mean I'm not the writer of the story obviously, but I think that would have been a really cool thing if 11, even if she didn't die, if she was like comatose or whatever, or this is the season where she lost her powers, not last.
Like, so, you think about like how what's her name, Max, how she ended this. That's how 11 should have ended the season.
Yeah, and that
I agree. I actually agree with that. I hadn't thought about that yet. And I agree with that.
And that's where the writers should have all of a sudden really leaned in on Will.
Do you remember? Sorry, keep going.
I was gonna say that. And that's where like Will is supposed to really come in and be like, oh, well, like I can like. I know this motivation. Yeah, I have this connection. Yeah. I have these senses now. And like it just turns out that Will's kind of been like not like powers per se, but Will's been developing this like
he's sensitive to the
this sensitivity. Down. Yeah, this like sensitivity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was just thinking like I remember when I watched and you know, people can say what you will about what was it called? Pirates of the Caribbean. What was the second one called? Dead Man's Chest, I think. Maybe.
So. Yeah.
I don't remember what the third one. Oh yeah, the other one was like I don't remember. Third one, not the third one. The second one. Yeah. I remember very, very strongly like how I felt in that moment when Johnny Depp jumped into the Kraken's mouth, and Johnny Depp was the 11 of the series.
Right.
And Jack Sparrow. And I remember being like, how are they going to do? Because they got a third one coming. Like it was the biggest cliffhanger. And that, again, that would have been back to Stranger Things.
Yeah.
You take the main character with all the powers and all the abilities and all the connections to the bad side and the good side and whatever. Take that away. You got yourself a really good series.
Yeah. That's yeah. So that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And then my number one con, really quick, is without a doubt Mike. I hated Mike this season.
Yeah.
Hated Mike. He did nothing, and he just added fuel to the fire that like because I like my big problem with season 4 in general is things took way too long. It took way too long to get Hopper out. It took way too long to get 11's powers back. It took way too long for the gang in
California to get to Hawkins or
just for the Hawkins gang to come together and like work as a team. Like it took them like 2 or 3 episodes just to get everybody together and work together.
Yeah.
Like it took like the pacing was just really not bad in the season, but it wasn't good.
Yeah.
But some of it was just outright bad. But like Mike, the fact that like and like it was immediate for me with Mike that he goes and he visits 11 and he visits Will, and like he doesn't. It's not even like he doesn't acknowledge Will when he lands. It's like that is such a dick move. Like like when I saw you for the first time.
That's your bro.
Yeah, like when I saw you for the first time in years, like the first thing we did was like, hey man, like give each other a hug. Like like how weird would that have been if like I arrived at your place and was just like, oh hey,
And you like greeted my dogs. Hey Ralph.
yeah, hey Ralph, hey Elvis,
Hey Elvis. Where's the bathroom?
Yeah, and then I'm like, and then like after like a minute of like awkwardly petting your dogs, I look at you and I go, oh hey, so are we gonna go now? Like,
yeah. Hey, what's on the agenda today?
It was so bad that it was like that, like they are gonna write that as it was unintentional, but in real life that was so bad that could not have been like that could not have been intentional.
Yeah, it was
like,
very intentional.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and like it was like usually I kind of always thought that like kind of like Will, I kind of always thought Mike was the main character.
Yeah.
And 11 was the one with superpowers who did that. But like this season made it clear that 11 is the main character, and Mike had nothing to do, and he was just dumb and he was just annoying. I did not enjoy Mike at all this season, and it's like it was a big fall from grace because usually Mike wasn't, like I said, the main character. He was the one who's like, whatever, but yeah.
Absolutely. There was a dryness to everything that happened with Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle. And I think that's why with my bottom three, Will stuck out because it was kind of part of that group. And it's like that whole
California part was kind of not great.
The stuff with 11 was interesting once she went to the
lab.
She
left.
When she left. Yeah, when she was you started to learn about what happened in the lab, and that's when it got interesting.
Yeah, once she went to Nevada, that was interesting.
Yeah, and then the Russia stuff. I guess I should get into my top three. Was that your bottom three?
Those were my
Did you do all
three,
of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with a lot of that stuff. I mean, there was just some dryness with the California crew and them getting to. I mean, they just didn't do anything until they did the salt bath. That was like the only important thing that they did.
Yeah.
So my top three are going to be more character based and I guess location based. Loved everything that happened in Hawkins. There was some like weird stuff, but overall, I think Hawkins remains like. I wish they would never have left Hawkins.
Yeah.
Loved everything with Steve, Robin, Nancy, Dustin, Eddie. Loved it all. Loved the basketball players kind of being this group of jock straps, like hunting Eddie, and it was interesting. It was fun. It wasn't realistic at all. This show is not realistic, but it was interesting. It was fun. It kind of built on top of like it was the center of the story once again because Vecna is of course located in Hawkins,
right,
or whatever you want to say. But so you got to see like firsthand like all the. I mean, it was terrifying when you saw Chrissy get all contorted and bent out of shape, and it's like, what is happening? And then the little news reporter kid that was with Nancy, the same thing happened to him. It was like, this is wild, and so that's where you really got to see the main guts of the story, and so I really loved that. Number two, I would say, is Murray. Murray was one of my new favorite characters. He adds the comic relief that is more natural than Argyle, and he also serves more of a purpose.
Is Murray the guy that was with?
He's the one that fights the guy on the airplane.
Yeah,
he's with Joyce the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, he serves a huge purpose.
I am a black belt.
Yeah. My hands like arrows. My arms like iron.
Yeah.
And he
that is comic relief done right because he is not solely just comic relief.
But they developed him over two. I think he came up in season 2.
He came up in season 2. Yeah, you're right.
And so they've been developing over time. And,
Nancy,
and he is the comic
Nancy
relief.
and Jonathan banged in this room.
That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
But he was the comic relief of the show. And he's funny. He's quirky, but he also serves a major purpose.
Right.
I mean, he was very important to rescuing Hopper. And
he speaks
getting
Russian,
to Russia,
so he's able to infiltrate. Yeah,
speaks Russian. He's a skeptic. He's just a natural skeptic that's like, don't trust anything, and he like makes them drop the weight on the Russian doll to get the message out. Like all that stuff is so
Right.
it's very fine tuned. They did a good job with him, and I love. He was just a good character. He's fun to watch. Every time he was on the screen, I'm like, yes, Murray time. And honestly, kind of a con. The Russia stuff, I agree with you. Kind of just took forever, but I felt like it was, for me, it was forgiven because Murray was a major part of it. So I was like,
Right.
oh, we give Murray time, so I don't really care. I don't really care how long this takes. Let's just give Murray the
I think for
screen.
me, the hindsight is I was really expecting at the end of the season, before the end of the season, at the season finale, for everybody to meet back together in Hawkins, and obviously that doesn't happen. So I was just like, let's go, like let's get there, like kind of a thing. So. Yeah.
And then my number one, so we got Stephen Hawkins, we got Murray. I would say my number one is Eddie, and I think that is a very, I think that's a very popular thing right now. Eddie's getting a lot of attention.
Wake up. I don't like this. Chrissy, wake up. Hey,
but
hello.
he was in Stranger Things history. He was probably the best new character, the best developed new character. He was interesting. He added a lot to the show.
Sorry, Sean Austin.
You fell in love with him fast, and you did not want him to die.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking to my wife, the whole time that we had between volume 1 and volume 2, you're like, I don't want these 5 people to die. And he was one of them. It was him, Steve, Hopper, and I don't even remember the other 2. Those are my top 3, though. I don't care if anyone else dies. I'm like, Murray. If Murray dies, save Murray at all costs. Alexi in season 3 was my favorite too. I loved Alexi Smirnoff. Remember him?
Killed him off. Yeah, they killed him off like right away.
They killed him off. He was the comic relief.
I like Bob. I like Bob a lot.
Bob was good. Yeah, I like Bob
a lot. Bob was like the dad that like
the Will and Jonathan needed. Yeah, that they still don't have.
Yeah.
Hopefully Hopper can provide some of that because it's obviously leading to that. But But yeah, I think Eddie was really good, well developed. I love the D&D. There's a D&D theme, in all of Stranger Things. It's definitely resurrecting D&D in pop culture right now. And
we might be talking about D&D on the podcast too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a theme on this podcast, and it will be very soon. But I loved that they, I think that the D&D was kind of like a small part of each season. It was like kind of the way to introduce the main villain, and then this time it was like, you're kind of living in the story, and he's battling the bats with a sword and shield, and it's like, this is cool. And he's like the leader of the Hellfire Club. And did you see the thing with he's got the tattoos of the bats on his arm? Have you seen that?
I was gonna say, have you heard the theory about Eddie right now?
Yeah, that he's gonna become something much darker than we probably could have ever thought. He's gonna become like a vampire, right?
Yeah, like there's like this like vampire,
quote unquote vampire.
Yeah, there's like this like vampire D&D character.
I can't remember the name of him, but yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and yeah.
So, that Vecna is going to rise him up, and he's going to be kind of his right-hand man. Yeah.
But like, I guess in D&D lore, this character is like pivotal in killing Vecna.
Yeah. Which I think would be awesome, and I think that might be why they spent so much time and did such a good job with Eddie. I think that they are leading up to something much bigger for him in the future. I hope. And I think, awesome. And I want.
It's a good theory. Yeah, I like the theory. So I'm gonna do my top 3 real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So number 3 is very similar to yours. It's gonna be the Eddie as a character, but it's also gonna be Eddie, Steve, and Dustin kind of relationship that they had. That like Dustin very clearly has looked up to Steve for a while now, and that like Steve, even though he doesn't want to, he like reluctantly admits that he also enjoys and needs that relationship with Dustin,
Yeah.
and that Eddie is like a perceived threat because he's taking like because Steve is like withholding that affirmation that Dustin goes and finds it in Eddie, and Eddie is very willing to take on that role.
Yeah.
And like I really love that moment where like he was like Eddie's like, yeah, like I hated you because like Dustin worshipped you like so much, like kind of a thing. Like I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I want to see that explored more because I felt like season 4, and I think this was intentional because I felt like season 4 really did not develop the Steve Dustin relationship for most of the season.
No, it kind of just started where it left off and just kind of kept
If anything, it tried to bury it a little bit, actually. Like,
yeah.
So I did not.
But nothing. It didn't grow at all.
Yeah, it didn't
If
grow at all.
anything, it declined.
I think it technically grows a little bit because of that scene with Eddie and Steve.
Yeah,
like, I think that makes it grow a little bit, but like for Steve only, not for Dustin.
And you can kind of see it's a very deep background story where it's like, Dustin is starting high school. He's part of this Hellfire Club. He looks up to this Eddie guy, and it's like Steve is out of high school, working full time. It's like, they kind of allude to the fact that Dustin, Steve doesn't have time for him, and Dustin is also in high school with Eddie, and that's where he's able to be exposed to him more.
Yeah.
It's kind of just in the background, but that does take away from the Dustin Steve relationship that we all love so much.
Yeah. Number 2, I think, kind of continuing with this Eddie bandwagon that everybody's on.
Yeah.
I think the Eddie Chrissy,
their relationship or their interactions, I guess.
Their chemistry is the word I was looking for, was very good. And to have like the way, like you said, like how Chrissy just brutally gets killed, really sets the tone for the season.
Yeah.
I do think it was a mistake killing Chrissy that early in the season. But that's hindsight. But I think that
it did play an important part in the story in pushing Eddie. In another thing, really quick with the D&D stuff and Eddie, it was very accurate to the time where people thought it was a satanic cult.
Right.
People looked at D&D like this thing of the devil, and that's what they identified Eddie as a D&D guy. He's satanic. This girl died in the trailer that he lives in. Right. Obviously, it's a satanic bad guy, and so I think that was very cool that it was realistic in a sense that like if that would have happened in the 80s, that probably would have been what the overall census of the town would have thought of, as a satanic individual. Yeah. So anyway, keep going. Sorry.
So that's I thought that was a very good way of just kicking off the season, setting the tone for the season. That was really good. But my number 1 has to be Vecna as a character.
Vecna. Yes.
Number 1. I'm glad that we are finally getting answers.
Yes.
I still don't know how. I have to rewatch Stranger Things 2, but I don't really want to because 2 is my least favorite.
Yeah.
Because I have to figure out how that all works with when Eleven finds her sister when she runs away and they do like superhero stuff.
Yeah.
And like nobody likes that, and so they just quickly abandoned that. So I don't know how all of that plays into Vecna in that story. But I love the origin story. I love the villain origin story. I love how creepy Vecna's origin story was. How he killed his mom, killed his sister, tried to kill
his dad.
Yeah, tried to kill his dad, and like it. I really enjoyed that this season felt like an 80s horror movie more than like an 80s sci-fi, fantasy, anything that more than anything.
It was like a psychological horror movie
Yeah,
too. It wasn't
and
even like a jumpy, scary thing. It was like, what is he doing to him? What the hell? Yeah.
I mean, like I when I watched Stranger Things like last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember now.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kind of put it on. Like I didn't decide like, oh, today's the day I'm gonna watch Stranger Things. And so I just put it on, and I put it on like really late. Like I think I was eating dinner. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna eat dinner right now. I guess I'll throw on Stranger Things. So I didn't watch I watched Stranger Things up until like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So like it was like really creepy, like this like 80s horror thing that was going on. For me, it was like 2 a.m. I had the lights off, and I was like, yeah, this is actually creepy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I really like Vecna. I'm glad Vecna didn't die. I'm glad that Vecna is going to continue to serve as the antagonist, because that was another thing that I was getting kind of tired with in Stranger Things, was that like every season a new bad guy would show up, a new villain, and every season they would defeat it, and then the next season would come and they go, no, but this is the real bad guy. This bad guy makes that other bad guy look pathetic compared to, like, oh, you thought the Demigorgon was bad. Well, here's
the Mind Flayer. Or the Demidogs, yeah.
Here's the Demidogs. They're just as powerful as the Demigorgon, but there's like multiple dogs. So like that's.
And here's the giant swamp thing. I don't know what you would call the season 3 monster, but that thing was disgusting. But yeah, it was just like they're leveling up their monster. But yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you that the Vecna was awesome.
Vecna was awesome, and the actor that they got, that guy was just so good.
Yeah, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about Vecna yet, because that was honestly the steal of the show.
Yeah.
And if you were to compare it to something, Mitch would compare it to Infinity War and Endgame in the sense that Vecna won.
Yeah.
Vecna won season 4.
Yeah.
He may have been blasted a few times with a shotgun and burned with a Molotov cocktail, but that dude won, and he's coming back, with a vengeance.
He got the 4th portal open.
He got everything open. He's ready to just sink Earth into the ground.
I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if they're gonna do this thing where after they beat Vecna, like everything is back to normal, and like anybody who Vecna like hurt is gonna be like, because like what they do to Max is like you don't recover from that. Like that is like,
well, look at his dad. It's similar to what happened to Max. He's the only survivor other than Max of Vecna's curse, and that's and we don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully, you hope for the best, but at the same time, you hope for an interesting story.
I don't know if like when they kill Vecna, it's gonna be like, oh, the curse is lifted, and now Max is like totally better now. And like, like as if nothing happened. Like I don't know if that's what they're gonna do.
And how many people are we gonna lose on the way to Vecna's demise? I hope if Murray dies, I'm gonna lose it. But honestly, there's got to be some sacrifices.
Some characters need to die.
Yeah, they've held out this long. They keep killing off people that they introduce in that season. There's going to be some main characters drop in, unfortunately. So, but yeah, Vecna, amazing, great villain. Loved how they tied it all together. We now know like what the Upside Down is. It's just another dimension that's part of this world, I guess.
There's still questions that we need answered by.
There are, but we got the big questions of what is the Upside Down. And then these creatures exist in the Upside Down. It's just a parallel universe, and Vecna has used his powers to control it. That's what we know now. There's obviously plenty of other questions, but like one question I have is there more universes? I don't know, but and then like you had mentioned the season 2 spin-off with 11 and her sisters, what's that is that gonna come into play? How did she survive Vecna's massacre in the lab?
That's kind of why I don't necessarily believe that they've had this idea for Vecna since the very beginning.
Yeah,
That's
I agree with you.
That's what they're saying. They're like, oh no, we had the idea for Vecna in the very beginning, and I was like, really? Because it kind of seems like in season 2 you're trying to push like a totally different story, and like
Yes,
everybody hated it, and you're like, oh no, like you're like, so I don't know, yeah, but yeah.
What one thing that I thought the same thing, and I was like, you can say that because I heard that rumor as well. They mentioned that, but I was like, you might be saying that, but you can also a lot of these shows have the vague intention of like we want a big bad guy, we want a Palpatine kind of guy, like someone that's running the show behind the scenes, that's doing all the bad stuff. But I don't think they had thoroughly written out the character, but I think that they did a good job for the most part. Other than that we pointed out that I can think of right now, I think that they tied it together pretty well in season 4. We have like a basic understanding, and we also are like, I'm like satisfied with the answers that we got and the questions that still remain. So
Yeah.
Season 4. Listeners,
Season 4.
did you like it? Was it worth the wait for you? What do you think?
Did you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
And do us a favor, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. You're going to be posting videos now on the regular on the channel, so don't want to miss that.
We'll be live streaming a lot, so tune into that. Yeah.
If you haven't already, leave a review for us on your preferred podcast listening service. Do it for us, please. But otherwise, next week we will talk some more about stuff.
Yeah.
That we find.
Probably we'll talk about something.
We can't promise what it will be about, but we can promise that it will be moderately interesting at the very least.
Yeah, I think that's something that we have done in the past that we do not do very well at, is we promise you guys something and we don't talk about it the next week. But we can promise you that it will be moderately interesting.
It will be moderately interesting.
You can hold us to that.
That's our guarantee. I guarantee you're gonna like the way you look. I guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. But until then, go ahead.
I said I've been Mitch.
I've been Aaron.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to my interesting podcast. Make sure to tip your lifeguard. Bye.